Hello and good afternoon, everyone. And thank you for joining us on this final webinar in this exciting webinar series brought to you by Ride to Conquer Cancer sponsor KPMG. KPMG has been a national sponsor of the ride since 2010 and a top fundraising team year after year. The ride is just a few short weeks away, so we have three great panelists today who will provide you with some insightful last-minute fundraising and training tips. You'll also hear some helpful on-event reminders as we near the ride weekend. I'd like to introduce our three speakers today. Ramona Oss from the Princess Margaret Cancer Center, as well as Patrick Cook, our Ride to Conquer Cancer specialist, and Pete Stay-Smith from Norco, the official bike partner of the ride. Folks, if you'll take a look in your control panel on your right-hand side of your screen, you're going to notice that there's a section for questions. We ask you to please type in any questions that you have throughout today's webinar. Hopefully some of them will be answered, but if there are some that aren't, go ahead and type them in there. We're going to have a supercharged Q&A at the end of this webinar where we'll be answering those questions for you. Alrighty, we are recording the webinar today, so next week you'll be able to tell your friends and family and teammates to watch today's webinar on the Ride Map to Success page on the Ride to Conquer Cancer website, so be on the lookout for that. The second webinar is currently up on that page for you to view. Thank you again for joining us, and I'd like to invite our first speaker to kick it off. Ramona, are you there?
I'm here, Chris, and thank you so much. But I have a little correction. We are actually 3 weeks and 3 days away from the event. And when it comes to fundraising, every day matters. So thanks so much, Chris. And certainly, if you're like me, and minimum, I was thinking days you'll pick up in the next few minutes that will bring you to the minimum and hopefully overachieve the minimum. So, you know, some of you might be saying, I haven't hit my goal yet. Now what? So you've asked and they didn't give. You need to ask again. In my case, I had to ask my very own mother. I had to ask her 3 times in order to donate. So each time I spoke to her on the phone, yeah, I'm getting to it. So even though you've asked, please don't hesitate to ask again. And always remember, and sometimes I struggled with this at the very beginning, I'm not asking for myself. You're not asking for yourself. You're asking for the research that goes on at Princess Margaret's Cancer Center. So keep that in mind. And think about, did you ask every single person in your network? What about your kids' hockey team, the parents on your kids' hockey team, in your mom's group, your gym buddies? Did you ask your dentist? I know my husband said we've been supporting our dentist for the last, I don't know how many years, 4 in our family. He can cough up some dough. So really think about everyone in your network. And what I found is that some of the people who I'm closest with, I'm still hounding them for money, but people on the fringe of my network, they donated to me right away. So go back, look through your contact list again, and double check, did you actually ask everyone on your list? Certainly we've talked a lot about Facebook in past webinars. So when you're posting on Facebook, instead of just saying, hey, support me, why don't you tell people why you're riding? I think that that's really important. Everyone has a cancer story, whether it's a family member, a friend, a coworker, or you just want to change life for future generations of cancer patients. Tell people why you're riding. What do you think about also creating a challenge? I donated, let's say, $100 to my ride. Why don't you match me? Or my colleague Steve, who's on the phone, he put a challenge out there for a head shave. He said he would shave his head to the wood if he raised, I don't recall actually the number. I'm sure he'll come on at the end of the call, let me know. Let's say $1,000. If you donate, if I get $1,000 worth of donations in, let's say, the next 48 hours, I'll shave my head to the wood. So he certainly overachieved his goal and did, in fact, shave his head. Another option for the men is maybe you want to shave your legs. Be a real cyclist and you'll legs if you achieve X number in dollars, or even unique donations. Maybe if I get 20 donations in the next 48 hours, I'll shave my legs. Think about maybe offering an incentive. One great idea I picked up from a friend of mine, she offered to deliver a dozen homemade cookies to anyone who donated to her by the end of the week. So think about incentives. If you're like me, we're doing some planting on the weekend in addition to training. I opened up my garage and it was a little bit of a disaster. So perhaps hold a last-minute garage sale. Pull your things to the side of the road, and instead of bringing them off maybe somewhere else or waiting till later, why don't you host a last-minute garage sale? Another idea, certainly that some people have already leveraged, is canvassing outside of a local store, like a Walmart. I've heard it said that people have raised over $1,000 in just 4 hours. So how do you go about doing this? Just call the store manager. Maybe not all Walmart store managers will agree to this, but call the store manager. Arrange for a date in order to canvass people outside their stores. Bring some posters, which you can find on our website under participant resources. You could stand outside and canvass people, or you could bring your bike and spin on a trainer. Walmart also has, in some cases, a matching program. So $1,000, speak to the manager about seeing what they might be able to match on that $1,000. Certainly, it would be Walmart dependent. I encourage you to call the store first. Another option is one of my colleagues, she and a friend of hers, brought their bikes and trainers right outside the Air Canada Centre and said that they were riding for Mum. And they collected a bunch of money just by doing an impromptu spin. So those are just a few ideas. Hopefully there's something in there that will encourage you or make you hit your minimums and exceed your minimums. But perhaps, you know, you've tried all, you still have, you haven't, and get another 90 days to fundraise, and that's through our delayed self-pledge option. So once you go through the online check-in process, there'll be an option if you have not hit the minimum fundraising requirement. There'll be an option to click on a box called delayed self-pledge. So essentially what you're doing is you're putting down your credit card number and you're promising and committing to deliver the $2,500 to Princess Margaret Cancer Centre. But your credit card would only be charged if you have not hit that minimum after 90 days. So with this, you have an opportunity then post-ride to perhaps hold a thank you barbecue, inviting your people who did donate to your ride and other potential donors. And certainly along the way, make sure you take keep some memories. Take lots of photos and videos that you can share with your potential donors, and really see what a great event it was, how hard you trained for it, and share your excitement of your cancer center with your friends. Also, that line self. So that's it on the fundraising side. Again, hopefully you've picked up a few quick tips, and I'd like to turn it back to introduce the center. Chris, are you there?
Hello, everyone. Can you hear me? All righty, folks. Should be able to hear me. And now, sorry about that. Just a little audio snafu. But thank you again, Ramona, for those final fundraising tips to help push you to your fundraising goal and beyond. I'd now like to introduce Patrick Cook, our Ride to Conquer Cancer specialist, with some last-minute reminders about the event weekend. Patrick.
Thank you, Chris. I appreciate you guys having me on to speak about the event and any last-minute reminders. So let's make sure that we don't forget to check in. That's very, very important. Excuse me, just going to get some water. Don't forget to check in. You know, checking in online by May 31st will ensure that you get your check-in kit, including your jersey, your bike plates, at the mail or in the mail so you can arrive on Saturday morning, June 13th, ready to ride. You won't have to do anything else other than make sure your bike's ready to go and then head out once the opening ceremonies have concluded. You also want to make sure if you can't meet the May 31st deadline that you check in online by June 9th. Pick up your check-in kit on site and on Saturday morning, June 13th. So if you check in online by June 9th, your kit will be ready to go. You'll be in an express line and you'll be able to pick that up and be on your way.
Hello, Patrick, can you hear us? Patrick, are you there, sir?
Can you hear me now?
I can indeed.
Sorry about that. I was on mute while I was coughing. My apologies.
That's all.
So June 9th, online, you want to make sure you check in by the 9th. That means you can pick up your kit on Saturday morning and you'll be ready to roll. Check in on site by June 13th. If you choose this option, plan to be there early on Saturday morning as there may be lines. Typically, you want to be there as early as 6:30, possibly even earlier, so you can make sure you get to that front of that line and get all your donations in so that you can grab your kit and hit the road. Don't forget bike drop-off. Very important. It really saves on the logistics when it comes down to coming to the start line on Saturday morning. So you can do an early bike drop-off at the Toronto Start, which is our new start line this year, Humber College Lakeshore Campus. You can do this bike drop-off on Friday afternoon from 2 p.m. to 7 p.m. We'll have people there, security guards, to ensure that your bikes remain safe and secure over the evening so it's ready for pickup on Saturday morning. If it's easier, you can also drop your bike off at 6:30, between 6:30 and 7:30 a.m. on the Saturday morning. This will ensure your bike remains safe and secure while you go and fill up on water, grab an amazing breakfast, or possibly even give in those last-minute donations so you can get your ride kit. Also, don't forget the bike drop-off at the Niagara Start, which is at 7200 Niagara Parkway. So we're going to have an opportunity for those that need a shuttle to get to the Niagara Start by arriving on Friday at either 3:30 p.m. or 6:15 p.m., and we'll shuttle you from Toronto to Niagara Falls. We'll ensure that we have a bike transport truck ready for you so that on the Friday night you can put your bike on this transport truck. We'll take care of it. We'll shuttle it from Toronto to Niagara Falls, and it will be waiting for you on Saturday morning when you arrive to that start line. But if you're already going to be in Niagara Falls, feel free. You can do your bike drop-off on Friday afternoon at the same time as in Toronto between 2 p.m. and 7 p.m. Again, we'll have security there to ensure that your bike remains safe and sound, so when you get to the site on Saturday morning, you're ready to roll. If you want to check your bike in between 6:30 and 7:30 a.m. on Saturday in Niagara Falls, you're more than willing to do that as well. Now, this is very important. 2015 is an incredible year this year when it comes to sporting events within the province. The Ride to Conquer Cancer obviously is the most important, but certain things like Pan Am Games have caused us to search for a new location for 2015. That being said, our new Toronto opening ceremonies will now be on Humber College Lakeshore Campus, which is located at 3199 Lakeshore Boulevard West, Toronto, Ontario, M8V1K8. If you're looking for an intersection that's nearby, Lakeshore Boulevard West and Kipling Avenue. Ceremonies will still start promptly at 8 a.m., so make sure you're there no later than 7:30 in the morning to ensure you get breakfast and you're ready to go when opening ceremonies start promptly at 8 a.m. There's no change to our Niagara Falls opening ceremonies. It's going to again be at 7200 Niagara River Parkway in Niagara Falls, Ontario. It's across from the Niagara Floral Show House, if you know where that is. We'll have you guys ready to go. We'll provide, again, a breakfast for you on Saturday morning. You can grab that. And again, ceremonies will start promptly at 8 a.m. Don't forget to celebrate. Obviously, this is an incredible achievement that all of you guys are going to be partaking in. The celebration of friends and family encouraging you on your way to that 200-kilometer finish line in Niagara Falls or in Toronto is certainly one of those things that brings tears to your eye when you see that familiar face as you cross. So invite family and friends to and ensure they begin arriving around 10 a.m. to celebrate the thousands of riders that are completing their epic 2-day journey. So that being said, shuttles are available from Niagara to Toronto starting at 12 p.m. once you're finished your ride. This is only for riders, so if you need to get your bike and yourself back to Toronto and you don't have anyone to take you back, we will ensure that we do that for you. So shuttles are available from Niagara to Toronto. First shuttle will run at 12 p.m. and they'll leave promptly once full. Niagara Falls is our finish line, and for the Niagara turnaround or the Classic or Classic Plus route, and then Humber College Lakeshore Campus is going to be our Toronto Turnaround Plus, our Niagara, and our Toronto Turnaround regular route will be our Humber College Lakeshore Campus finish line.
Very good. All righty. Thank you, Patrick.
Thank you.
Appreciate all those last-minute reminders, very good reminders heading into the ride weekend. Again, you can find a lot of this information not only on this webinar after it's been recorded. We'll put that up on the site, but that information is on the Ride to Conquer page as well, so you can check in there. And always feel free to send an email or a Facebook post if you can't find that information, and our Ride to Conquer Cancer specialists will get back to you promptly. Friends, don't forget, as this webinar is going on, you have that questions section on the control panel of your GoToWebinar, your GoToWebinar control panel. Go ahead and submit any question you have about the ride that perhaps you haven't heard yet, and we're going to answer them just after our next speaker is done in a supercharged Q&A. Speaking of our next speaker, I would like to introduce him right now. Pete Stace-Smith from Norco, the official bike partner of the ride. Pete, are you there, sir?
You bet, Chris. Can you hear me there?
I can indeed.
Perfect. Well, I'm hoping that all the people listening in on this webinar can as well. Thanks for having me here. Thanks for everybody joining, and great tips from Ramona and Patrick already. I've been, of course, listening in as well, and those are some fabulous tips. Personally, I've been to and provided tech support through Norco Bicycles at 18 of the Ride to Conquer Cancer events over the past 6 years. I'm super stoked about 2015. I'll be at 3 of the 4 events this year. The only one I'm missing is the same weekend as my son's wedding. Apparently that took precedence. So anyways, I've had lots of experience with the rides, and today the part that I'm going to do is I'm going over to cover a few kind of key points to think about for the riders to think about in the final few weeks prior to the ride. Key points would include some training, nutrition, bike setup, and even some personal tips. So I'll jump right into training. Basically, the key on training is here to think about reducing your riding kilometers in the last week before the Ride to Conquer Cancer. Don't cram. At this point, this last week, less is actually more. So you want to come into this event feeling fresh, ready, and excited to ride. So as you're thinking ahead for these next couple of weeks, try to go on some of your bigger rides in the next couple of weekends, so you get those big rides done at least 2 or 3 weeks prior to the actual event coming up. Also, in these last few weeks, you're no longer in the strength training zone. You kind of need to let your body give it time to rest and recover. So do your rides, make them quality, not quantity, and make sure you enjoy the rest and recovery period as well. Again, this is all going to aim towards having you show up at the start line of this at this beautiful event feeling super fresh and excited about riding. In the last week, so still now 2.5, 3 weeks from now, or I guess 2.5 weeks from now, as Ramona says. Do a couple of shorter rides. Easier rides, just make sure your bike and your riding gear is all working properly and to keep your legs feeling fresh and ready. And on the 2 days of the events, one thing that we see a lot of is people overgearing. They turn this into they think it bigger is better. And so, I always chuckle and talk to people and say, hey, think about using, one gear easier than you would normally think of, to allow your legs to spin and try to keep keep a little higher cadence rather than to struggle along and push a huge gear. This style of riding is quite a bit easier on your knees as well. So at the end of that first day, you're not going to be feeling like your knees have taken a big beating, and they're going to be all fresh and ready for the next day. Speaking of nutrition, it seems like common sense, but kind of don't try any new foods the day before you ride or during the Ride to Conquer Cancer. That Friday night isn't a night to go out and celebrate and try some new Thai restaurant or whatever. Just keep it simple, keep it basic. Eat more carbohydrates during the 2 or 3 days leading up to the event. They call it carbo loading in sort of more athletic terms, but these are important. You want your carbo tanks at the full mark when you start your ride, because that you will be drawing on that over the course of the next couple of days. Also, make sure to drink enough water or energy drinks and consume enough food during the ride. A lot of people, they later on struggling really down, say a half a bottle a day, and the body as it's putting out the energy needs water and replacement electrolytes to top off those tanks as well. For keen riders, a good rule of thumb is a bottle an hour. So you think about that. If you plan on being out on the course for 4, 5, 6, 7 hours, think about that. And maybe a bottle an hour is too much for you, but the bottom line is if you've only had one bottle during the course of the morning or whatever, you are definitely low and you need to start drinking a bit more. That will help you out. Also, if it's really hot, and it has been in the Toronto ride, make sure that you have some electrolyte replacement drinks. These are at all the aid stations, so make sure you top off with electrolyte replacement as well. One really kind of cool tip that a lot of people use is to install 2 water bottle cages on their bike. Have one just for plain water and one for a mix of electrolytes, and then alternate those when you're drinking, so you have a little bit of either as you're going. Also, think about having protein and carbs to eat as soon as you can as you get off the bike, so you can start that recovery process for the day 2. And finally, some sort of bike and personal tips. And I do chuckle because after 18 rides, we've seen it all. People bring their bikes into us and they're cursing their bikes. They just had it tuned at the local bike shop, 2 days prior to the ride. This is kind of a mistake in that what you want to do is get your bike, if you do think you want something changed on your bike or a tune-up, get it in almost this week or early next week, so that you still have a couple of weeks prior to the event to get a few rides in post tune-up. This allows, if they have replaced cables, whatnot, it allows the cables to have stretched and settled in. If there's any final adjustments necessary, the shop will take care of that. It's a real quick adjustment so that when you show up on that Saturday morning ready to ride, your bike is working perfectly. Not really the best plan to take your bike in, pick it up on that Thursday night or Friday and take it right to a start line. A lot of people get pretty disappointed when they come to see us on one of the first aid stations needing a bunch of tuning because their bike isn't running properly. Also, during normal training, all of the people listening in today, they've been, hopefully training through the last couple of months, and we'll have another 3 weeks of training here. During normal training and riding, parts of your bike do wear out, and they will require replacing. So, check items like your brake pads, bar tape, tires, chains prior to the event. If you are unfamiliar with this, have the bike shop check it. Take it into your bike shop that you bought the bike, or that your local good bike shop, and have them check it over. If something's getting worn out, replace it now, because again, your local bike shop will be able to get you the exact item you require. If your brake pads wear out on the ride or your bar tape finally comes undone, we'll do our best to tape it up or replace it, but we may not have the exact item that you're looking for to match your bike. Also, if you're using clipless style shoes and pedals, don't forget to check your cleats. This is a real common thing in the first 2 or 3 tech support stations. We have people coming in and their cleat bolts have come loose on the bottom of new shoes. Again, quite common after you've clipped in and out a few times that this may actually loosen up a bit. So again, zip by a shop and have them do this, or else take an Allen key to the bottom of your shoes and ensure that your cleats are tight. Also, cleats have wearable plastic parts that need replacing. They're offered a little brighter color so you can see them when they're wearing off. Or if you're running older steel style cleats, as you come to a stop over the last 1,000 times you come to a stop at a stop sign, people, drag a foot for that last foot or two as they come to a stop, and your cleats may be worn out and need replacing. Kind of don't wait to find out on the ride that they're not working well, that they can pop in and get that done. Also, don't make any sort of final adjustments to your bike right close to the ride. Things like raising a saddle or changing the angle of a saddle or whatever, or even changing a saddle. Do these at least 2 or 3 weeks out again so your body and your muscles have time to adapt to the new positioning. Again, better yet, think about getting a reputable shop to do a bike fit on you and a full, just remember to ask them not set you up in a race fit, which is a really aggressive sort of drop bar type of a comfort and distance riding. Explain to them what you're doing and what you want there. Sort of final couple points on tires. Inspect your tires for cuts and slashes or wear marks. If you have got a couple thousand K on it during the spring for training, there might be little cuts from gravel or glass. If you've ridden in the wet, it's very easy to cut or slash a tire in the wet. So, check those out. If it's looking worn, now's the time to pop a new tire on that. Also, as you come into the actual weekend of the ride, if it's going to be a hot weekend, note that air volume will increase with the heat, and the road temperatures. And if your tire is old or in need of repair, like has a slash, it can actually cause your tire to pop and be destroyed. So if you see rain in the forecast, think about considering a larger tire or one with a little bit of tread. Again, this will increase your traction and make your tires less prone to punctures. A real common error for riders that just aren't in the know is they think that more is better with air pressure. And really the key here is don't overinflate your tires. We have people coming by saying, oh, I want 130 PSI or 125. And, the funny part is we all just smile and chuckle because even pro riders don't run more than about 100 pounds in the front or 105 pounds in the rear, especially on the normal roads that you guys are going to be riding on, which are not always smooth, may have a little gravel, potholes, that kind of stuff. So, just running your tires too hard will only actually beat you up with all the road shock and the vibration coming up through your bike and right into your spine and the rest of your body. So just lowering the air pressure to about 100 PSI will give you better traction and quite a bit more comfortable ride. Another thing that people seem to screw up on a regular basis is how to install their number plates. So please read the instructions really carefully and check out the tips. We've done a little video tip that's posted on the Ride to Conquer Cancer site on how to properly install this. Because again, we spend a lot of time at the first 2 or 3 aid stations cutting off incorrectly installed number plates, and we've seen a lot of riders with the inside of their thighs all scratched up, or even worse, the brakes are dragging because they zip tied right around their brake cable, and so the first time they pull it on, the brakes are applied, but the zip tie doesn't allow the cable to actually release. And then finally, sort of in what to wear, know what to wear depending on weather. Be prepared for heat and rain or cold or anything. Hopefully, as riders, you've all tested your ride gear in all sorts of weather during the training over the last couple of months. But be ready for the ride, the actual event weekend weather. Check the weather prior to ride and come prepared. I've seen people, show up at a start line in a short sleeve jersey and shorts when it's pouring rain and like 8 degrees. Just again, sort of think ahead and be prepared and ride in the clothing that you need. It's always easy to ditch clothing along the way. People have left clothing with us and just said, hey, can I come by at the end of the day and pick it up from you, that kind of stuff. But, if you don't have clothes on and it's too cold, you're going to be suffering. Make sure you also pack a complete spare set of clothes, riding clothes in your overnight bag so you're starting totally fresh on day 2. And my final suggestion after, seeing many of these, you guys, for all you riders is, please remember this isn't a race. Take your time, enjoy the ride, remember and think about all the people that you're riding for, just really ride the ride for what it is. And feel free to come on by and say hi to the good folks under the Norco tents. We're there to keep you guys moving forward. If you have, if you need something like a little bit of chain lube or a little adjustment, we're there for you. We're definitely there to help you out, and we're there to make your event a better day. That's all I got for now, Chris, so back to you.
Fantastic. Some amazing tips from Pete there. Pete, we appreciate it. Absolutely incredible tips that will certainly help you out leading into the ride weekend and on the ride weekend itself. All righty, folks, those were our 3 brilliant speakers. Thank you to all 3 of you for speaking today, Ramona, Patrick, and Pete. You're still going to hear from them in just a second, though, because now we have our supercharged Q&A. So this is, again, the opportunity for you to ask any questions that you have that maybe you didn't hear an answer for on the questions section of your GoToWebinar control panel. Go ahead and type them in there, and we're going to answer them for you as best we can. We already have a whole slew of questions in here, which is fantastic. So we're just going to jump right into this and get started. I have a question right off the bat from Frank. Frank asks, I have made hotel reservations. Who do I give my duffel bag to on Saturday morning, or is that on my own responsibility since I declined a tent? Patrick, maybe you can answer this question.
Yeah. Well, that's a great question, and I'm sure some others have a similar question. You can still bring your bags to a gear truck, any gear truck of your choice. Pick a color, your favorite color, maybe you like green or blue. Put it on that gear truck. You'll get a sticker. You'll place it on your bracelet, and when you arrive to camp in Hamilton, you'll know to go to that specific gear truck, grab your gear, and then when you're ready to leave for your hotel, you can grab that gear and head on to the hotel that way.
Brilliant. There you go. Thanks, Patrick.
No problem.
All righty, we have a question from Marvin. This is a two-part question from Marvin. Marvin asks, what time does the ride officially start, and how long do the opening ceremonies normally last? I'll send that to Patrick too.
Chris. Alrighty. So the opening ceremonies officially begin promptly at 8 a.m. They can last anywhere from 20 to 30 minutes. So riders are expected to be on the route between 8:20 and 8:30 as they exit from the start line.
Very good. All righty. This is a question from Steve. I think this question is going to go to Pete from Norco. Hey, Pete, is there a cadence or perhaps a pedal stroke per minute that you might recommend? Is there a certain speed that someone should be riding at, or whatever's comfortable for that?
Yeah, absolutely. I can jump in, and that's a great question, Steve. Most computers, even some relatively inexpensive computers, do have a cadence pickup. And again, if you do not have one of these on your bikes, it's not a bad idea because that gives you distance, time, and average speeds and cadence and whatnot. But the question specifically regarding the cadence, what you should aim for, would be around 90. You know, you'll find that generally, sort of, I'm going to say more novice riders will be in the kind of 50 to 60 range, and this is just seriously, it's too hard on their knees. So if you go down in easier gear and let the cadence spin up a little bit, initially when you try that, you may say, wow, this feels really fast. But if you start, riding with a little quicker cadence, you'll find it's easier. The rides will go smoother and better. You'll feel more refreshed the next day. Also, as you start to record that, if you look at your average cadence at the end of a ride, you'll notice that this will start to come up. And, if you're on a steady ride, you might find that your cadence will actually be above 90, 95, even 100 or whatever. So, but like I say, just a quick reference, aim for 90 and go from there, and that's a great start.
Excellent. All righty, the next question is from Laura. Do I pick up a yellow flag on the morning of the ride? Patrick?
Yeah, so you can pick up a yellow flag on the morning of the ride, or if you're dropping off your bike on Friday between 2 and 7, you can get your yellow flag attached then. So ensure you get there a bit earlier if you are going to have this flag put onto your bike. Our lovely friends, lovely bike outfitters are going to be there to help you with putting that flag on properly and safely so that it doesn't affect any of your mechanics on your bike.
Excellent.
If I could jump in just real quickly on that too, Chris. I'm not sure if you guys can hear me, but if I can jump in quickly, doing it the night before will ensure it is set up right, because trying to scramble and throw it on at the last second is a good way to have those flags not be installed right and to drive you nuts all day. So if you do, if it is possible for them to come down the night before, it's really good. Because again, we see a lot of flags that are done at the last second that we just have to promptly redo again at the first check area when they're all done wrong.
Excellent. Next question from Tom. Tom asks, what time does the ride start on the second day from Hamilton? What time will the riders get out on the road from Hamilton? Patrick?
I'll take that one, Chris. Yeah, I'll take that one, Chris. We aim to have the start of the exiting plan, I guess you can say, at Mohawk College on Sunday the 14th, around 6:45. So around 6:40, and have up until 8 a.m. to leave. So you have about a 75-minute window that you can choose when you'd like to leave Mohawk College and head to your respective finish line.
Right on. Excellent. Thanks, Patrick. All righty, let's see. Next question from Wendy. Wendy has a two-parter. We'll go ahead and ask both of these. How far apart are the rest stops themselves? That might be a question for Patrick. How far apart are the rest stops? And if someone hits the wall and can't finish part of the ride, what happens? Patrick?
Hey, Chris, I can answer both of those.
Great.
Yeah. So your pit stops are going to be between 20 and 25 kilometers apart. And should you hit the proverbial wall, as it were, you will have an opportunity to request sweep assistance. These are vans with bike racks that can pick you up and your bike and shuttle you to the next pit stop, or possibly even to the finish line, depending on where you are requesting the pickup.
Very good. Patrick, you are a wealth of information today, my Ride to Conquer Cancer specialist friend. And I have a few more coming your way.
No problem.
The next question I have is
Great.
from Christine. Christine asks, I have already received my wristband for the event, which says I'm doing the classic route. However, we have decided to change to the Niagara start. Do I need to get a new wristband? And if yes, how would I go about doing that?
No, you're not going to need a new wristband based on what it says, where you're starting. You don't have to worry about that. You might notice that your bike plates are stating that you're on a different route as well. All of those things, not a huge deal, and it's not going to impact your experience on the day of. You'll still get breakfast in Niagara if your band says Toronto, and you'll still be able to ride on the Niagara route if your bike plates say the classic. So not to worry, everything will go as scheduled based on the start line that you're going to.
Brilliant, fantastic. This question is from a few participants, so we'll throw this one out there. Where can I get a map of the route?
Great. So maps of the route are currently posted on the website. You can find those in the event information section of our website if you'd like to get a sneak peek. But you'll also have an opportunity to pick up your pocket map on the morning of the Ride to Conquer Cancer on Saturday, June 13th. Whether you're at the Niagara start line or the Toronto start line, you'll get this great pocket map, and it'll include exactly where you're going to be riding, so you'll be able to follow along. That being said, the route is extremely well marked. There's thousands of riders in front of you, thousands of riders behind you, so you'll always know that you're going to be on the route.
Very good. This is a question from Steve, and I happen to think it's a very important question. Steve asks, hey Pete, do you recommend having a steam whistle as a recovery drink at the end of the ride on Sunday?
Hey, that's a great question, Steve, and absolutely. Steam Whistle has been a sponsor for years back there. They make a fine beer, a very nice light Pilsner beer, and as long as it's cold and fermented, it's a post-ride. It's a good way to replace carbohydrates, so and also do a little internal icing at the same time. So I give that the 2 thumbs up, yes.
Brilliant. Thank you, Pete. One more question here from Christine. Is it possible for family and friends to join in the festivities on Saturday night in Hamilton? Patrick?
Yeah, I can take that. So friends and family are more than welcome to join you at the festivities in Hamilton at Mohawk College at our campsite. That being said, they won't be privy to the same luxuries that you will. So they're able to hang out with you, but they're not going to be able to have one of your Ride to Conquer Cancer dinners or a free massage or participate in the yoga. But they're more than able to hang out with you, enjoy the entertainment that's going to be on site, and really just keep you company should you need it on that Saturday evening.
Very good. Fantastic. I have another question from Laura. Laura asks, will there be a shuttle from the Hamilton finish line to McMaster Housing by any chance?
There will. In fact, this is the only spot, the only accommodations in Hamilton that we do provide a shuttle, and that's to McMaster University. Shuttles are going to be running consistently, roughly every 15 minutes to 20 minutes, beginning at 2 p.m. and running until 10 p.m. So you can hop on that shuttle. You'll be taken down to your residence at McMaster University, where you'll have the opportunity to check in. If you need to come back to camp, you're more than able to. But any shuttles, any requirements after 10 p.m., which are unlikely, you would require to take a taxi back down to McMaster University. As well, on Sunday morning, we're going to be having shuttles running as early as 5:30 in the morning that will take you from McMaster up to Mohawk College. And those will run, last shuttle will likely leave around 7:30 in the morning. Again, breakfast will be provided for you on Sunday when you get to Mohawk College, so no need to worry about grabbing food before you get on your bike on Sunday morning.
Very good. And we're going to close this supercharged Q&A out with one final question. Patrick, this is going to go to you as well, as we've had a few people ask it again, and it's a very important point, so I'd love for you to reiterate it. How is luggage handled once again? Luggage at the beginning and at camp and at the end?
Yep, great question. So we're going to have a number of gear trucks that are going to be positioned throughout the opening ceremonies in Toronto at the various parking lots that you may be parking at. You'll be able to drop your luggage off at a gear truck of your choosing based on maybe a color that you know you can remember. Once those trucks are filled and all the riders have exited from Toronto or from Niagara Falls, the gear trucks will make their way to camp in Hamilton, where will then be offloaded. Your gear will remain positioned at the truck that you dropped it off. If you've chosen pink gear truck, then all of the gear will be segregated from pink gear truck in a perfect line, so you'll be able to find that gear no problem. Head to your tent or your hotel, have a great night's sleep. You come back on Sunday morning, and then you drop your gear off again at the same truck. You'll know where it's positioned because you'll have picked it up there from Saturday night. Drop it back off. The lovely crew members and volunteers will grab your gear, load it into the truck, and ensure that it gets to the appropriate finish line. So that being said, if you do notice that you've dropped it off at pink gear truck and that truck is going to Toronto rather than to Niagara Falls where you're finishing, just ensure that you put your gear on the correct truck. If you do, by accident, give it to the wrong area, no problem. Your gear will all still be provided at your finish lines, whether it's Toronto or Niagara Falls, where you can then pick it up, take it on your shuttle from Niagara Falls back to Toronto, or you're already finishing at Toronto, well, your gear will then be waiting for you when you get there. So lots of opportunities to ensure that we take all of your luggage. Make sure you remember what truck you put it on, because you'll need to know on Saturday when you arrive to camp and on Sunday when you arrive to your respective finish lines. Our volunteers will ensure that you know which one you put it on so that you're not going to get mixed up.
Fantastic. Thank you so much, Patrick. And that question is going to close out our supercharged Q&A Folks, thank you once again for joining us today and throughout this webinar series brought to you by KPMG. I do see one final question here that says, I joined late. Will it be available online and when? AJ, thank you for your question. Yes, this webinar is being recorded and will be posted to the Ride Map to Success page later this week. Once again, the second webinar is on that page right now, so you can listen to the audio from that webinar right now and download the PDF to follow along. Once again, we appreciate our three speakers today, Ramona, Patrick, and Pete from Norco. Thanks for all that fantastic last-minute information for our riders. Folks, have a great rest of your day and have a fantastic ride on June 13th. We'll see you there. Thanks and goodbye.